Once upon a time a king went to a monk and said, "Sir, I want to ask you something. I have been asking this question for 20 years but nobody has helped. Will you help me?" The monk replied, "Sure, ask me." King said, "Sir, I want to meet God. I don't know how, but I want to meet God. Can you help me to meet God?" The monk smiled and said, "Sure. Do you want to meet God now, or after a while?" The king was surprised. He said, "Sorry sir, maybe you did not understand. I am talking about the supreme power. I am talking about God." Monk smiled and said, "Of course I know what you are asking. You want to meet God, the supreme power, right? But I am asking, do you want to meet God now or sometime later?" The king was surprised. Till date no one had asked him such a question. He took courage and said, "Well, I want to meet God now. Please help me to meet him." The monk said, "Okay, now please write your name and address on this paper so that I can convey to God who you are." King wrote down his name, address to his palace, his introduction, his title, and gave it to monk. After reading it, the monk said, "King, all these things which you have written on paper seem to be false and untrue." The king said, "But sir, all that I have written on paper is true." The monk said, "Tell me, if you change your name, will you change? Will your consciousness, your being, your personality become different?" King thought for a moment, then replied, "No sir, how can I change by changing my name? My body and my consciousness will remain the same." The monk said, "So, one thing is decided, that the name is not your introduction, because you do not change because of its change." Then the monk said, "Now, tell me, today you are a king, tomorrow if you become a beggar, you don't have a kingdom, you don't have a palace. Will you change?" The king said, "No sir, even if the kingdom goes away, I will become a beggar. I don't have anything in my body and my consciousness will remain the same." Then the monk said, "So, the second thing has been decided, that the kingdom is not your identity, because even if the kingdom is snatched away you do not change. Now tell me, what is your age?" King replied, "Sir, my age is 40 years." The monk said, "So after being 50 years old will you become someone else? Or 30 years ago when you were a child, then were you someone else?" King said, "No sir, age changes, body changes, but I will remain the same. What was inside me is still there today." Then the monk said, "Then the third thing is decided, that age and body is no longer your identity. None of this introduction is yours. Then who you are? Write down here on this paper if you want to meet God." The king said, "Sir, it is very difficult. I do not know who I am. I have always known these to be my identity." The monk said, "Then there is great difficulty without your introduction. How can I introduce you to God? So go find out first who you are, and the day you will know who you are, you will not come to find God, because the one who has known himself has known God." If we see in our lives, we will find that we all identify ourselves with name, body, and age. We never try to know ourselves beyond these, but we should remember that our body changes with age, our name changes, even our mind changes with time to time, but there is something which knows it all and never changes, and that is your consciousness, that is your real identity. But when we attach ourselves to body and mind, we become subject to pleasure and pain. Pain is felt in the body, and sadness is felt in the mind. The body is subject to comfort, pain, and the mind is subject to pleasure and sadness. But our true identity is our consciousness is beyond both of these two emotions. Have you ever tried to know why we all wish for happiness and not sorrow? Because we ourselves are the embodiment of happiness. Joy is our true nature. That's why our natural inclination is towards happiness. Therefore, whenever you get troubled by difficulties in your life, whenever you are in sorrow, always remember yourself, who you are. Dive into your own self of bliss, and you will find that all of your sorrows will go away immediately.